All right.
Great.
So this is the beginning of the recording of Saturday, October 5. And this is the book club portion of
Oh yeah, right.
two different class sessions that occur on the first and third Saturdays of each month of this actually 13-month projected series called Islands of Sanity in a Mad World. And that's here in Living Resilience. It's a little organization and presence on the interwebs that also includes a number of other online courses. All of the coursework, all of the body of work that this is aimed toward being of service to the Collapse-Aware and Collapse Acceptant communities around the world. And again, this is the first of two 1 hour classes that occur on the first and third Saturdays of each of the months of this course. And looks like we have another member showing up. Hi, Sumi. Hey,
Hi, Sumi.
I
Hi.
yay. I'm just doing the video opening, so you haven't missed much. And so I'm just going to finish that up and we'll check in and get going. Um, this particular first session of the two sessions of these Saturdays of Islands of Sanity course, this is a focus of the on the book club choice in that will be a series of book club choices throughout this 13 months. The first book that we're studying and reading together is Climate Cure: Heal Yourself to Heal the Planet by Jack Adam Weber. And there are a number of reasons, some of which I've shared in the previous two sessions, of why I was so emphatic about having Climate Cure be the first book in the series of books that we're going to be uh, reading. And primarily it's because Jack does a brilliant job of mapping what could be called in alchemical fashion as within, so without. In other words, how we are addressing and being aware of and adapting within our inner world may have tremendous impact on the world around us and vice versa. So there are many intricate structures, especially when Jack so beautifully lays out some of the Chinese medicine principles and distinctions that he brings to climate cure from his expertise in the past. And so I'm particularly interested in this week's focus. Now, almost nobody, I'm guessing, but almost nobody is probably up to the fifth chapter and having read it and coming ready with your things to
No,
share.
no,
I know
That's true.
it's completely okay. Uh, but I would like to bring a few prompts to kind of plant the seeds of those prompts with you for when you do get to chapter 5. It is about how we live with, how we experience, how we might metabolize anxiety in what we're facing in this world. Both, again, the inner experience of that and the exterior or the outer world and how they interact, and especially in terms of anxiety. I think we could pretty easily throw in some of the more obvious mental health and relational health uh, indicators, including depression, including loneliness, and on the list goes. So that's me, that's us, that's what this Saturday session is about. And for those of you who are just doing this course and on the recordings only version, hello to you. I strongly recommend that whether you're here live or you're watching the recordings only, that you spend some time in our private sharing and chat space in the Living Resilience online community space. It's um it's really our one opportunity, if we want to be able to share with one another, share resources, share inspirations, and perhaps find others to sit in circle with. In other words, I would leave it to you all to reach out to possibly find buddies with whom you can study, with whom you can share, with whom you can hold space. Um, I just can't recommend that strongly enough because this work is far more valuable, far more rich, far more healing, and possibly far more inspiring
Hmm.
if we do it together. So that's why my suggestion for the day.
Hmm.
And I think what I'd like to ask y'all to do in terms of a very brief check-in is if you would just remind us of your name and where you are and actually where you are in this book. It's really okay if you haven't even cracked the book. It's okay. Just say it. And and if you have done some reading, it would be especially valuable if you would mention something that comes to mind, something that really struck you or was noteworthy in your reading of Climate Cure. And so let's just do that. A brief reintroduction of ourselves and a brief update about where you are with regard to the book. And if you have anything to share, please do. And is there somebody who would like to begin?
Hmm. Sure, why not?
All
I'll
right,
start.
Richard, yay.
Uh, yeah, I find that book it's fascinating. It's great. I mean, I love it, and it really speaks to me. But it's also, for me, very slow going. Oh, I'm Richard Lowenthal. I'm in Texas, Georgetown, a little north of Austin, and in a somewhat purplish area in a very red state, which is kind of scary at this point. But anyway, so yeah, I'm a very slow reader in general, and it takes me a long time to read and absorb stuff. So with his work, it's so dense and so full of all kinds of great nuggets of wisdom and inspiration that it takes me a while to get through. Like, yeah, I'm lucky if I can get through 10 pages at a time. So I read a few this morning, like about five maybe.
Yeah,
It's just slow for me. I appreciate it a lot, but it's slow. Yeah.
right. Richard, thank you. And before we got the recorder going, we were talking about your work on medium.com and that you also have some of your articles available on the Good Men Project, which is
Yeah.
another online presence that puts out good stuff, including you. So just wanted to kind of give folks the good word that you may want to check out some of Richard's writing. I find it very, very clarifying and valuable. So thank you. Who's next?
Thanks.
Well, I'll jump in. I'm Sumitra, and I live up in Bellingham, Washington. Um, I actually read this whole book a couple months ago with a friend and found it very valuable. Um, and what I like about his work is that he really kind of normalizes, um, deep healing, emotional healing, and what could come up in the face of, climate change or other kind of disaster situations, and just, healing from trauma in general. But I also like his work because it's very balanced. So he's suggesting to fully embrace the emotional journey, but also, um, you know, be gentle with yourself and do it in a way that's like not overwhelming. Um, so I'm gonna have to read this again because I kind of forgot everything. I mean, it's in there, but with everything that just
Yeah,
happened, like
sure.
across the country, like my brain just went offline.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like I just forgot everything. So it's a good handbook to have around, and it really is a friend. I feel like it's an ally.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And while most people kind of, push away, strong emotional or traumatic emotions or whatever, he doesn't. And I really appreciate that about him.
yeah,
Um, he's probably the only person like that I've heard within, the YouTube slash, I don't know, out and about that doesn't like try to just heal it through polyvagal theory, which I feel is completely useless as someone who has pretty severe PTSD. It's just useless to me. So,
Mm.
yeah,
Did you say heal it through what?
I'm sorry,
You were saying heal it through what? What is useless?
polyvagal, polyvagal theory.
I
Uh,
guess I'm not familiar with that. Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, is it anything? I don't even know if it actually is anything.
It
So
is.
no offense to anyone who may be involved in that. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah,
Oh,
So
I
okay.
can say that there is some of the most compassionate yet deep facilitation that I've seen in demos on YouTube from some of the big players in that polyvagal world.
Hmm.
It's some of the most beautiful facilitation through deep process that I've ever seen.
Hmm.
So I think it matters a lot who's doing the facilitation. And I think that's a conversation for another time. But I hear you absolutely.
I
Hmm.
just want to comment on that, Dean. Like,
Yeah.
it's beautiful if it's relational, but if you're like at home alone and you're trying to work the polyvagal theory, it's like, what is it? I don't even, I mean, what you're talking about is actually just compassionate relationship. So yeah, that actually is extremely healing. But
Yeah.
anyway, we can get into that
Hmm.
later.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
And Sumitra, thank you for your checking in. I wanted to go back to something you shared just to put a pin in it because I think it's an important piece I'd like for us to speak about today, and that is um, Jack Adam Weber's just consistent and clear articulation of the value of only taking on as much process work as we have capacity for. You mentioned that very clearly, and the a word he brings in is titrate. It's more or less like
Huh.
only bite off as much as you can chew, kind of a thing.
Right.
That's the very crude way to define that term for myself. And I think that that's what you're pointing at too. It it can be in this world of, now where everybody's psychologizing everything and everybody's processing a whole bunch and so on, it can be like another thing to accomplish more than we really have capacity for. And that can be not a positive thing for our system. So I appreciate you bringing it up. I wanted to bring in
Hmm.
titrate and also not biting off more than we can chew. Perhaps we'll revisit it later in the less than an hour that we've got. Sencho, would you like to check in?
Sure. Um, I'm Sencho. I'm in New York City. Um, and I I just want to say that for so many reasons, this meeting and the meetings that I have on living resilience are extremely important to me. And it's because of community. It's because of what you were saying, Sumitra. It's because of what human needs are, and especially finding that those needs now, in the now of the globe and the now of the climate and everything else. And I also want to mention, and I don't mean to. This is just for information. It's not that I want attention or anything. But I feel like the group should understand that one of my three adult daughters has been in the ICU for a week or more, having ingested a big bottle of antipsychotic meds.
Oh.
And she does not know where she is, although her vital signs are good, very good, like normal. But she thinks she's home and is, I just don't know where that's going to end up. So, and I can't get to her. She's in Virginia, but I do have three other people, family members, who are closer than me to her, and we're trying to work out getting to her and just having our voices be heard by her so that she knows we're not abandoning her. Anyway, so I just wanted to mention that, and thank you for providing me with yourselves, because this, as I said, this is so important to me to be a part of the reality of human interaction, which is community.
Sancho, thank you so much for your ongoing sharing. Just during your check-in, as is often the case when I'm with you, is that in your sharing, I felt myself opening. I felt myself opening my own heart, this kind of center, often kind of it's not armored anymore, but it's, I can be, let's get this thing done, and I can be on some other timing. And I felt myself slow down and soften and open with your sharing. So thank you so much. And my love is
Thank
with you.
you.
Best wishes. And I feel so completely um, helpless in terms of how I could possibly, contribute in your direction. But so it is.
This is it. This is
But
what you're contributing.
I was
Yes.
going to finish the sentence with you've
I-
made it so clear that this is a valuable thing, just
Yes.
it being our presences with each other. So thank you. Yeah. Robert, would you like to check in?
Sure. Yeah. Sencho, I was just touched, by what you had shared, and as Dean said, uh, it's so powerful and personal. But it's occurred to me of late, that we all go through climate and these other, not just climate, but the disaster of our world, with different personal issues and, at crises and things that there are. As I look back, I can think of times in our country with that I had, really family members that were sick and things that I couldn't pay attention to what was going on in the world. It didn't matter so much, and it's all part of our process. And so for me, I was just looking over um, uh, the chapters and everything, and it's certainly a book of real substance. So I'm glad I looked over the chapters, and I'm here, because I think this is, the more mature work to be to be attending to this and not watching my football game as I would want to do. So, Dean, you rank above Penn State football, which is way up there. So,
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
Whoa. All right.
that's,
Go
that's what's going on
team.
right now. But also too, my presence is kind of bifurcated. I don't know. Like I'm here, I engaging. It's just takes so much energy to engage visually and everything, and so I'm here connected, but maybe in the same way disconnected, and my need for more connection is still there. So part of it is just reconnecting and connecting with Dean and everybody and supporting the work that is being done here. That I think is the real conscious work, and you wonder why a million people aren't here. So
Yeah.
I really do appreciate Dean doing this work. It's
Yeah.
such a gift and very unselfish. So thank you, Dean.
Dean, would you mind if I told a short story about a recent broadcast that Nate Hagens made where, okay, he said, pursuant to what you just said, Robert, that um, he's a scientist, Nate Hagens, and he interviews a lot of people, and it's all about what we're studying. And he admitted that he was in New York City last week or the week before, and that he was sitting in circle with a number of people and he all of a sudden felt connected in a way that he hadn't felt before. And he said something about how someone had commented that, 6 feet from where you're sitting, 6 feet above you, that sort of energy goes out to everybody and in the world, 6 feet around you. But and he was delighted with that idea. And what I want to say is that I think my opinion is that it extends everywhere. So our energy has the capability of extending everywhere because we're not divided from everybody else. So what we do, I think, is being felt.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate your central.
Oh, appreciate you back.
Thank you. Good check-in. I
Hmm.
don't really know why I set up these two separate class sessions for each of the Saturdays that we would be meeting in each of the months and so on. The best I can best I can remember of what had me do that is I think well represented by Jack Adam Weber's uh, remarkable articulation of that alchemical relationship that I was pointing to before. As within, so without. Um, and I don't know of anybody that does it better. And there's a lot of people in the space these days writing books and being pundits and being selling their products and so on. He has a beautiful um, gift of articulation of how can this experience within my body, this being triggered or being um, nudged or pushed into a surprising different state of being. How can I be with that experience? And how can I even volitionally slow it down or shift it in some way? At least soon after it happens, and as I get better at it, maybe even while it's happening. These are the advanced levels of this inner work of collapse. What we're anticipating in that phrase of inner work of collapse is that collapse, whether it's at the initial stages or in the full blown, whatever the larger scale avalanche of effects are happening, uh, the more we expand our capacity to be present in the face of those stressors, those waves of disruption to our system, to our families, and so on, the more we're able to be, the expression's kind of awkward, but at choice about our state of being, at choice about our presence.
Yeah.
And if I look around the world right now, but especially in the USA, all too often what I'm present to, especially in media, is how dysregulated we are, how not at choice. What one could call it being at the effect of all this fire hose to the
Oh,
face
yeah.
of constant doom scrolling and negativity and polarization and so on.
Yeah.
So, what this chapter for
Hmm.
me spells out, again, just beautifully, is how I might be able to map out or keep track of what are these tendencies, what are my capacities to be present now? When is it likely that I'm going to get dysregulated? To expand my self-awareness is a valuable thing. And to be able to do that with others, ideally sitting in circle from time to time, that seems like a gift from heaven in this particular reality. Not that it hasn't been important before, but now more than ever. So, could I just see hands of anybody who either has read up through chapter five, um, and if you remember enough to be remembered a few of the concepts or the topics that were brought up. So, and Robert, perhaps you could just post a icon hand or something if you have. I think you said you have not, so it's okay.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. So is what I'm saying enough of a spark for you in the name of basic, or perhaps in your case, more advanced self-regulation and co-regulation? Are those words that I'm using right now, self-regulation and co-regulation, are they familiar enough to you? Are you conversant with how you've perhaps for your whole lifetime, if you had an amazing family and you learned those skills when you were young? I know nobody.
No. No, 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 no.
Okay. But in these times and in your time of being collapse aware and just in the kind of craziness that we've lived in for some number of years now, how are you doing in terms of your skill set, your capacities,
Hmm.
self-awareness of what are some of your limits? What are some of your trigger points? What are some of your um, places where you feel like it would be really good to build out more capacity so you could be more present? And I always tack on at the end of this sentence, I could be present to do what? And and to me, that is so I can be more present to be of service to those I love.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that is not just limited to people. In fact, people, I'm sorry to say, are about third on my list. But they're on that list, and I love the people I love, and it's great. But I'm just telling you, you're certainly not boxed into anything that I'm laying out here. I just want to find out how you doing with your ability to self-regulate, meaning you bringing yourself back to some felt sense of center when
What
life,
are what
when
what are
life,
number
what's that?
what are number one and two? You said humans are third on the list. What are number one and two?
Oh, that'll be next week. We could talk about that. I got to keep some kind of a teaser out there,
Oh, okay.
All right.
So it looks
Hmm.
like Sumitra is ready to respond to my query of how you doing with self-regulation, co-regulation, and any other
Yeah.
resources that you would like to share with us that you regularly tap into in these times.
Okay.
You got,
Well, I've been working on this for a long time.
yeah.
Um, and I have like a whole toolbox of stuff that I've written down, to help the physiological body kind of center and settle. So I've been doing this kind of trauma work for, oh gosh, since 25 years old, about half of my life. And I've
Mhm.
had to. But here's the thing is it's all kind of, to me, it's all kind of theory. Because I think I would do a lot of work to get up to another level of being able to hold what's going on inside and outside my life. And I would do a lot of work to get to that level. Then I have a plateau. But I'm at another level of deep challenge right now because of what happened in Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so here's the
Mhm.
thing is it's kind of all theory until you're kind of thrown on the mat. And I have about 70% of my friends are in Western North Carolina because I lived in Asheville for many
Hmm.
years and developed very close relationships. Some of them I call my family, and I'm very, there I talk to them every week. And when this happened,
Hmm.
it was so unexpected there. It was such a shock, and people are now really starting to freak out. Like they're the ones that I'm talking to, even the therapists there and the healers are really starting to freak out. Like the trauma is
Hmm.
starting to hit them. The shock is starting to wear off a little bit. The high of mutual aid is
Hmm.
starting to wear a little thin. The whole going into action and helping each other is, I mean, there's a point where that starts to wear off, and the actual physiology of our brains and our nervous system and our cortisol levels start to wear us down.
Hmm.
And I'm across the country, but I was hit. And my wife, my partner, who, we met there and we spent years there, she's
Hey,
also fairly traumatized
hey
by
Ed.
this.
No,
And then I talk to people
hey, listen.
on
I'm
the phone.
online right now. I'm in a group. I'm kind of involved with something, but I'll call you back. Can I call you
Um,
back in about half an hour?
okay, so I'm distracted. Sorry, my brain is not very
Yeah, I'm sorry. I finally got him muted. And so
okay.
whenever
So
you're ready,
I guess my point is that we could have I can have my tools, but when something comes out of the blue that's so shocking and destabilizing in a new way or at a weird time, like I'm back to ground zero. And like some of the things that I've learned and that I've worked with, they're not really working right now to bring me back to center completely. I'm having to deal with a brain that is offline to a large degree. I'm still able to do my schoolwork and, have cogent conversations and get resources to people there, which I'm working on. But my nervous system is effed right now. So, And then I was talking to friends who don't even have Asheville or Western North Carolina contacts, and they're traumatized. And they're in, like the Midwest because they were exposed to this and somehow picked it up. So what I'm saying is, um, we can do all the prep work we think we need, but it's actually what happens when we're in it, when we're swimming in it. And I think the most important thing is to have compassionate contact, to have co-regulation, um, and to just do our best because it's the human contact, the mammals, the contact between our humanness and our ability to hold just compassionate space and not all the bells and whistles of trauma, polyvagal, all these things. That's what is the regulating things. It's not all of the tools. And it's actually being able to listen to people, to hug people, to touch them, to hold them, for them to freak out and totally scream and cry and just to be able to hold that for them, because that's human. This is what happens physiologically to us. So anyway, I'll stop there. Um, but it's just like I've hit a new level and now I'm scrambling to find ground, honestly, with all this. And I'm not even there. I'm just holding space for my friends who are completely freaking out. And somehow it was so shocking to me that I was thrown off.
Yep. Sumitra, thank you so much. That is so uh, s- so vibrantly alive as a current, this is really happening kind of moment. So I just so appreciate your sharing that. I don't have friends there. I don't have history there, and you're just bringing it to such vivid levels. I just so appreciate it. And
Well,
yeah,
the earth, the earth broke.
yeah,
Their earth broke and their livelihoods broke. Their
Mm,
water lines broke. Everything's broken.
yeah,
mm.
These are therapists I'm talking to. So,
yeah. So, and particularly, I want to thank you for kind of upping the level of this conversation because this is really about the level I was hoping we would get to for both this session and the next one, the next hour that we're coming to, is that in the 10 years I've been offering this work, I've always tried to start out really soft and easy and the self-regulation at the most basic level. And I don't know if any of you have watched the video of Jack Adam Weber offering the physical practices of self-regulation. It's quite long and it's not something you'll probably want to spend, and watch every day at full length. What it's meant to be is like a menu where you choose your top three that you really love that you experienced when you watched the full video, and you just jot down the name of it, and you'll remember it. They're all so simple, each one of them. But the piece that's different now after 10 years of that kind of soft, gradual introduction, um, it's not appropriate anymore. It's time to really get out on the mat almost right away. So we're getting out of the white belt. If this is a karate class, we're getting out of the white belt really quick. And it doesn't mean we get to take the white belt off. It just means we're out there with black belts on the freaking mat and we
Right.
really can get punched. The impacts of these things that I was just hearing you share about, Sumitra, and you live on the other side of the country. Those are some big punches to make it all the way across the country and so on. So that's to me a upping of the ante, upping of the level of this entire conversation of what is it to be self-regulating? What is it to co-regulate when we have this scale of impact going on? So thank you for your patience. Richard, I saw your hand first and then Sencho.
Okay. Uh, yeah, that really spoke to me. Wow. I mean, because I lived in North Carolina for years in the 80s and early 90s, and spent quite a bit of time in the Asheville area, actually, living in several areas there and in the city itself. And yeah, I mean, what's going on is totally devastating. And, you know, one piece of it that I'm really aware of is I even saw an article in the paper about this, that this was supposed to be, I mean, the Western North Carolina mountains and Asheville, that area, was supposed to be like a haven or refuge from climate change and from the climate crisis. And that notion got totally blown to smithereens. I mean, it's not a haven, obviously. I mean, it was practically destroyed by the heavy rains they had before the hurricane came, but then the tropical storm and all its rain and the devastation. I mean, it's just incredible. And I mean, it really brings that in itself ramps up the whole energy of what's happening because it's like, wow, maybe there is no place that's safe, really. I mean,
Mhm,
maybe we're all in this and it's happening. I mean, it's already happening and we're in it.
mhm.
It's pretty intense. So that's like a huge wake-up call. And in terms of dealing with the anxiety, I mean, between that and the election and like the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security just came out with a bulletin stating that they do anticipate quite a bit of violence, from all these election deniers and people who have all these idiotic belief systems about what's going on with our politics and with the elections, that there's probably going to be, a bunch of violence around the election and afterwards. So it's like all these things are ramping up at the same time. So in terms of the anxiety level, it's kind of ramping up fast, especially probably especially over the next month. So in terms of what to do with that or how to be with that, I'm also struggling. It's like,
Yeah,
damn. I mean, everything's getting so intense. I don't know how else to put it. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you for the vulnerability, the openness that you're sharing, just being honest about it, being honest about what your capacities are and what you're grappling with. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sencho?
Yeah, Sumitra, I have two questions for you, if you don't mind, by way of offering maybe some um, sort of bigger or more consciousness to the problem that you stated. Um, two two things. What would be the ultimate help to you? Okay, just the first thing that comes into your mind. And what is the thing that you think could be most helpful, like right away?
To me,
Mhm.
oh, to me personally,
Yeah.
um, I kind of identified it yesterday. It just kind of came out in kind of a unregulated way, but it did come out. And I think actually having a community around me, I don't. I have one good friend down in Seattle who I trust with my life. And that's the only people in Washington State that I know. Most of my friends are around the country, so I see them online, but to have actual physical contact and being able to share how I'm feeling without having to like keep it together.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I think that I had kind of a realization yesterday that I think regulation, that whole concept of regulation is overhyped. I think if there are safe spaces where people can kind of lose their shit
Yeah.
and be contained, that is actually the most helpful, because trying to keep regulated is trying to control what are very primal responses to intense stress, and that trying to keep it under control actually causes more damage and more stress. So um, it's hard for me to do that because it's hard for me because I'll speak for myself, and I think just normally people have these protective defense systems to kind of be acceptable to others. But right now, I think personally, we need to normalize people losing their shit and creating safe spaces for them to do that. And I'm learning to trust myself that I will, on the other side, find ground and find some more ground. And then I was able to trying to hold it together. So I also just lost my father like 2 weeks ago. So like
Mm,
these two things are
Wow.
like intense emotional stresses on me. And
mm,
my defense system is to hold it together, but that's not working for me. And my nervous system, it's not. I actually need to lose my shit, and I need people to hold me. You know, I I have I'm married, but she's also going through stuff. And so like we need a village, and I need to somehow find a group of people who can literally show up and touch me, and I can touch them and like hold a barrier
Mm.
and of containment.
Mm.
And I wish I could do that for my friends in North Carolina. They're losing they're like trying to hold it together, but they're like level 20 baseline right now. And
Yeah.
I told them, just if you can find a way to lose your shit right now, that would be good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That would be good. So
Mm.
self-regulation, I don't know. I think that's part of regulating. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I'd like to just respond if I could. I'm coming from a place of having dealing with and having dealt with extreme PTSD my entire life. I get you. I understand. I hear you. I'm there with you. And I cannot offer to be physically there, but I can offer to be available to you. And fuck, we could scream together on the internet. I mean, whatever it would take. So I wanted to offer that. And I don't know, in terms of your friends who are actually on the ground there, there are, I mean, I could see my friend in Colorado responding to the American Red Cross who pays her to go. She's a Zen practitioner, advanced Zen practitioner. She's been trained to go to these situations and work with people on the ground, just doing exactly what you're saying. And there are probably other organizations that are doing that too. So maybe look into it for your friends so that the word can get out that they need help.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm gonna post my email address but
Okay.
especially my phone number so you can text me. And I can't guarantee that I can stop in the middle of my workday and scream in the middle of Trader Joe's, selling floor, but we could make an arrangement to get together. So I'm
Okay,
at
so
your service. I'm at your
I
service.
I'm gonna take you up on that. Thank
Great.
you.
Sure.
So, Richard, I see your hand, and I'd just like to ask you for your patience for a minute or two here. I'd
Sure.
like to put a cap on this part of what Sumitra's
Oh
brought
yeah, absolutely.
up. This is another reason why I love Jack Adam Weber's book and Jack Adam Weber in general, because I know that he's on exactly the same wavelength that you've just articulated, Sumi. Really. So, um, and what I promise y'all is that I am on that wavelength. That's the only thing that's kept me alive through many chapters of my life. And that being uh, what I would call an activating practice or expressing and releasing as it was first taught to me back in the late 80s. It's where it's basically co-regulation uh, of whatever it takes to have a person feel fully heard, fully felt, fully held in a time when it's just turbulent, it's disruption, um, it's extraordinarily challenging inside their system, and they need some way that is not about figuring it out or making sense of it. It means or
Mm.
self-regulating. It means blowing it out consciously, blowing it out, knowing that I'm held, blowing it out, knowing that there is a remarkable peace available after having done so. So, what I'd like to suggest also is next week, or excuse me, in 2 weeks when we get back together in the
Yeah.
book club session, we can just do some of the basics that we can then you can then take your pick of the elements that we go over and that we've actually practiced for the kind of call that Sensho you were offering. You were offering to hold space for Sumitra. This is what I want this group to be. And the next class, the next focus, that's what this stuff is. And it is not just about self-regulation. And I think you're going to remind yourself if you do go back through chapter 5, Sumitra, you'll see a number of suggestions that Jack Adam Weber mentions of exactly that kind of practice to do either alone, screaming in your car, which is kind of a perfect place, really. But it's not, as let go as possible. So he's on a similar wavelength. He offers some practices that can be adapted for when you're alone or with others. And we will also go through some of those practices next, 2 weeks from now in that session. The last thing I would say is if anyone on this call or anybody watching the recording is feeling a need, like you feel like you're a balloon ready to pop, needing this kind of venting, please contact me. If I can't be holding space for you, then I will find somebody who can. And I
Mm.
do have some very heavy duty partners in this realm.
Mm.
So there are resources available to you. Please reach out and let me know, and we will get you hooked up. Richard, thank you so
Yeah.
much for waiting.
Oops.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, I just sent an email. I'm very open to co-counseling and venting sessions, blasting it out sessions, whatever we want to call them. I think they're really important too.
Yeah.
Um, and Dean, you pretty much said exactly what I was going to say in my sharing. I mean, when I put my virtual hand up there, yeah, I think actually, well, I'll just add this. For me, the idea of regulation, I mean, the word regulation has some negative connotations and they don't really need to be there. I think regulation's kind of gotten a bad rap, but I think, and you said this, the intense emotional expression and just letting it out and just screaming or yelling or burying our face in the pillow and yelling at the top of our lungs or whatever we need to do is all important and it's all actually part of regulation. So even though we're letting go of control and expressing what seems like crazy shit, it's actually part of our regulation process. So that's how I'm reframing regulation for myself, you know.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing that we've got about 3 minutes left in this ridiculously short session.
Wow. Okay.
And I would like to ask us each to check out and so we might go a minute or two over. So if you really have a hard stop at the top of the hour, please go first, and so we can be
Hmm.
present to you, and then you can check out. Then you can leave the session. I'm hoping that you all will be in the next 1 hour session, which starts a half hour
Yeah.
after the end of this one.
Yep.
So, if you would, just a sentence or two of what you're landing with after our time together in this session. And so, anyone, yeah, Sancho.
I'm so glad I came as always. But this was an especially important meeting. I feel like because once our hearts open up to other people, that's when it really feels real to me. And there's nothing like that. So thank you all so much.
Hmm.
You.
Thank you. Robert, are you ready to check out? Oh, there he is.
Mhm.
Robert, I don't know if you heard my invitation to you. If you'd like to check out, you're welcome to. And if you're not ready, then we can go to someone else.
Uh, Dean, I wasn't sure who you were asking.
Uh-huh.
I,
So if you're ready, Robert, to just check out with.
oh, okay. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. My internet connection is spotty here, so it's gone off and on a couple of times. Um, yeah, well, this hour has flown by, and so it wasn't long at all. Um, I guess one of the things I came away with in my own experience during the week was that uh, the news and the chaos has been so incredible that even the disasters that were talked about and the trauma I felt got didn't get the full play that they would have in the media, so that we're all informed as a culture exactly what's going on, because there was too many exploding literally traumas going on in the world,
Mm.
so that when I did talk to somebody who had relatives there, I was underinformed, and that was hard for the person who was talking to me about the relatives that I didn't that almost I should have known more about the disaster. But I I think it's hard to keep as informed, even though paradoxically we don't want to stay too informed of everything, and we want to do the inner process. Uh, but certainly this just brought it all home, and maybe that's the thing is in talking individually, we can bring it back home even if we're not following the news in the way that has been done here. Thank you.
Right. Robert, thank you. Sumitra, you ready?
Yeah. Um, I don't mean to drop like a bombshell, but I really think everyone's availability and willingness to show the fuck up today just in this little hour, because I mean, I'm gonna tell you my deepest secret is I'm so fucking lonely. I
Mm.
am so incredibly dangerously lonely. And I don't mind being alone, but I'm existing without community around me. And I just don't know how I'm going to make it. So
You're going to make it because you're not alone.
I thank you. And I know that, but there's also a deep loneliness in me
Mhm.
that this is like, it's resonating, like me not being able to be around people and just like hug each other and talk to each other and touch each other. Like that's what I've always needed,
Yeah.
and never really had. And so going through these kind of stresses is so hard.
Yeah.
And it's really like testing my ultimate strength.
Yeah.
and so that's what's really going on, and I could wail about it and cry about it forever. And I know I'm thank you for being here. I just wish you were here. It's a big country,
Yes,
a big country.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my deepest secret.
It's not a secret anymore.
yeah,
Um, we may not be there with you, and that may never happen. But we are here with you. We are here with you. And I imagined things that you could hold. I imagined holding yourself. I imagined just imagining things. But maybe the closest we could do is, the closest we could get is maybe connecting on Zoom and just saying, feel me. Can you feel my hand? Can you feel the softness of my skin? Can you feel this rough spot over here? And I have a little hair sticking out over there. Can you feel that? We are with you. And that's why we left our contact information.
Sencho, thank you for your obvious, heartfelt reaching out. Thank you. And if I may just mention, Sumitra, that you and I are going to be talking later this afternoon about some really high octane resources, some people who this is all they do. This is like the doorway into where they start. So we're going to have a greater and greater capacity amongst ourselves to be able to reach out in the way that Sencho you were just talking about, and Richard you were just talking about. So we're going to build out our skills and capacities with each other, and that's great. And there are some really high octane other resources. And if you want to get in touch with them, I'm happy to, perhaps we could just do a session in one of our sessions here about those kind of resources.
Yes.
There's books,
Yes.
there's kind of small scale online workshops, and then they also do a lot of live work. Unfortunately, the least the country where they do it the least is in the USA. They do some, but it's not a lot. So, and in any case, there are high octane resources that we will add to our list here, and we will explore them together. Is there anybody who has not checked out to your satisfaction? Please, Richard.
Yeah. Well, we went pretty deep today and, covered a lot of ground. I guess what I'm left with is, yeah, the sense of community that we're developing is really great. It's beautiful. And I I don't know, unless you're a super social person and are surrounded by people all the time, I think the experience of going through this crisis that we're in it's lonely. I mean, it's going to be lonely. It just is. I mean, it's a horrible, lonely experience, especially when most of the people around us don't really acknowledge it and don't fully get it. I don't know. It's even around people, it's still lonely. That's the scary part. I mean, geez. So that's why I think this is important. We're all here to help it be less lonely for ourselves and to share with others and make it a little easier somehow where we can, that's what I'm coming away with.
Beautiful. Yes. So we're at about 6 minutes past the hour. Thank you all for staying on a few extra minutes.
Yeah.
I'm hoping against hope that you all will be joining us in 24 minutes when I fire up the next class session for today. Uh,
Bet.
I thank us all for opening up at a very new and much needed, much called for level. Thank you so much. and have a good break. We'll see you soon.
Great. Love you all. Thank
See
you.
you all soon.